This is a video about division and how that ends democracy. It contains some violence, but that's the reality of the times we live in. So let's talk about the things we can't talk about. Why is Donald Trump a profound danger to America? Because he intentionally divides us, and America can't survive divided. There is nothing benign about division. Division is the cause of violence, hate crimes, civil wars, and genocide. Democracies fall because of division, and unity is what this is all about. All of our religion and politics in service of unity, a better union. Let me start with a story. In 2016, I was sure that evangelical Christians would reject Donald Trump for his behavior, especially as it relates to women. But instead, he was elected and the evangelical vote put him into power. I let a few evangelical friends know exactly how I felt about their vote. I said, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" I was a jerk. I didn't change any minds and I damaged relationships, but in the moment, it felt good. This is division, a short, cathartic burst of toxicity in exchange for long-term loss. We all agree that we're divided, but then we blame that division on others. In my story, I didn't vote for the divider, but I was the one being divisive. I could have handled those conversations better if I took the time to listen and understand why evangelical Christians voted for Trump. This is empathy. So why did good evangelical Christians vote for Trump? White evangelicals overwhelmingly vote for Republicans and are highly motivated voters. The reason for this is complicated, and the evangelical creator of VeggieTales has a great video explaining this in detail.
White evangelicals vote Republican and black Protestants vote Democrat. Why is that? Don't they read the same Bible, pray to the same God?
Link in the description. This demographic cares about conservative issues, abortion above all else. They voted for Trump because he supported the issues they care about. I mean, imagine if Trump hadn't switched parties in 2010. And the 2016 election came down to a pro-choice, pro-gay rights Donald Trump and a pro-life, pro-conversion therapy Mike Pence. Who would you have voted for? Many evangelicals don't like Trump's behavior, but this is the situation they found themselves in 2016.
We agree that President Trump isn't of the utmost moral character.
Absolutely. Are people arguing other than that?
We're not electing a pastor-in-chief. We're electing a commander-in-chief.
Their vote for Trump doesn't mean they've rejected the evangelical goal of unconditional love, or if you're old school, agape love. To see their point of view is to have empathy instead of division, to assume the best intentions of others instead of the worst. This is the danger of Trump. He lets us indulge in that brief, cathartic burst of hate that leads to long-term loss. I mean, he's probably tweeting something hateful and divisive right now. Yeah. And we love it. We all love it. For conservatives, he says hateful things about arrogant liberal elites, things we've thought in our darkest moments, but we're too kind to say, and that feels good. For liberals, he's the perfect example of the moral hypocrisy of conservatives. Our hate feels justified, and that feels good. His division makes us forget that most liberals and conservatives aren't those stereotypes. They're just regular, loving people. Donald Trump represents us in our worst moments. Us at our most hateful and divisive. And we have to ask, has America become more or less divided under Trump's leadership? Look at the state of race relations right now. There is race-based violence in the streets, something unthinkable 4 years ago. Hate crime is skyrocketing, with the second greatest spike in recorded hate crime coinciding with Trump's election. It is literally referred to as the Trump effect. Trump is claiming that he alone can fix racial division that happened under his leadership.
We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're to stay safely.
Oh.
Whoa. Oh.
Amelia, can you hear us?
Amelia, are you okay?
Seems like now is the time to say, I understand your pain. I want to comfort you. I think it's time we love each other. But the president took a different course. You just don't do that, Mr. President. It isn't cool.
You can't fix division with more division. You just get more violence and hate crime. Now, this is where whataboutism pops up. What about Barack Obama, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George Bush, Ronald Reagan, and on? Weren't they all divisive? And yeah, every president is divisive by default because they represent a political party. But every recent president before Trump tried their best to bring unity to all of America despite their party affiliation. After 9/11, George Bush was able to speak to our collective grief. And for one brief moment, we were unified when we needed it most. He didn't blame Democrats. He didn't even blame Muslims.
This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace.
Muslims are doctors, lawyers, moms and dads, and they need to be treated with respect.
When a worldwide pandemic hit, we needed Trump to be that unifier. We needed to come together to fight COVID-19 and protect the most vulnerable Americans. Lives depended on it. I'm in Canada for work right now, and I witnessed the Canadian and US responses in split screen. It was jarring. When COVID-19 hit, Justin Trudeau's wife got sick. He self-quarantined and gave messages of unity from his front porch without downplaying the severity of the disease.
Upon my doctor's recommendation, I will remain in self-isolation for 14 days. Of course, it's an inconvenience and somewhat frustrating, but we have to do this because we have to protect our neighbors and our friends, especially our more vulnerable seniors and people with pre-existing conditions. We are following medical advice, as should all Canadians.
His example and messages of unity defined the Canadian response. But while he was speaking caution and unity, Donald Trump was speaking division and conspiracy theories.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. And this is their new hoax. Virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat.
Even attacking the nonpartisan experts giving us guidance.
The president's campaign is continuing to feature you in a campaign ad, even after you said this is a form of harassment, pointed out that they're taking your words out of context.
The result was people thinking it was patriotic to put themselves and others in danger. Some people even denying the disease was real. This culminated in Trump, his family, and his staff getting sick. All the steps he takes to combat the virus won't matter if he still divides us and sets a poor example. A pandemic is not a partisan issue. For any other president, COVID-19 would have been their 9/11 moment, their rally round the flag moment, like it was for so many other countries. But not Donald Trump. He's incapable of unity. He can only divide. To quote Trump's former Secretary of Defense, General James Mattis, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years of this deliberate effort. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years without mature leadership. We can unite without him, drawing on the strengths inherent in our civil society. This will not be easy, but we owe it to our fellow citizens, to past generations that bled to defend our promise, and to our children. So why does Donald Trump intentionally divide us, as Mattis says? Is he trying to sow chaos in America? No, he just wants power at any cost. He knows that a lie that scares and divides is more powerful than a truth that calms and unites. This is why General Mattis says his division is unique. Let's look at how a previous Republican candidate handled a divisive lie.
We're scared of an Obama presidency, and I'll tell you why. I'm concerned about someone that cohorts with domestic terrorists such as Ayers.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, he's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about.
John McCain lost votes with his answer, but for him, truth, empathy, and unity were more important than a few votes. In contrast, Trump's divisive lies about Obama were what launched him into politics. The trouble with unity is that it's not very motivating. If an undecided voter hears that both candidates are good people, well, that's not going to move their position. Division motivates people. If an undecided voter hears that a candidate is both ineligible for office and possibly a terrorist, well, that can motivate their vote. But what's the cost? Lies motivate conspiracy theories, hate crime, and domestic terrorism. But for Trump, the consequences of lies don't matter as long as they get people to support him. This is why he lies about issues that scare people.
Joe Biden's policies put China first, take away your guns, destroy your Second Amendment, no religion, no anything, hurt the Bible, hurt God. The Christmas season will be canceled. They want to rip down statues to Jesus.
Those lies are motivating. To quote Donald Trump from his 2016 interview with Bob Woodward, real power is, I don't even want to use the word, fear. Donald Trump didn't divide us. He just stepped into our division to make it worse. Now we are so divided that we are willing to choose partisan hate over democracy, the thing we value most. And American democracy is about to end. End of democracy. That sounds overdramatic. That can't happen in America, right? I spent my entire life politically apathetic. I never even voted until 2016. It's not that I didn't care. I was just sick of out-of-touch politicians and their hypocritical grandstanding. So what changed? Why was I so angry and scared when good people elected Trump? This is the exact moment everything changed for me.
Do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time.
Peaceful transfer of power is the foundation of democracy. Democracy means that each of us has a voice and a vote. Above all, that means we choose our leaders. If a leader is voted out of office and refuses to leave, then our voice, our vote doesn't matter. Democracy, by definition, has failed. So when Donald Trump won't commit to that transfer of power, he openly rejects democracy. But he says there's massive voter fraud. Doesn't that also threaten democracy? Well, Donald Trump has a credibility problem. So we should be suspicious when he claims that massive voter fraud, something that has never happened in US history, is uniquely happening to him. Historically, attempts to sway presidential elections have happened out in the open with voter suppression, not shadowy conspiracies. More importantly, we have to ask ourselves, how did we expect American democracy to end? That an evil tyrant would ride in on an army of tanks and the armchair patriots of America would fight them in the streets? That's not how this works. Democracy ends when someone openly says they reject it and gives us a flimsy excuse.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots.
It ends when we are so divided that we vote for him anyway, simply because the other guy's a Democrat. And what happens if Trump doesn't accept defeat? The nonpartisan group 538 has a video on the specifics that I've linked in the comments. Republicans could reject some critical electoral votes to make Trump appear to win. Democrats will, of course, reject that count, relying on the official count. With no accepted presidential winner, the Speaker of the House becomes interim president. Democrats and Republicans accuse each other of stealing the election, and the government ceases to function. Extremist militia groups view this as the moment they've been training for and start armed conflict in the streets, adding to the ongoing racial violence and riots. There will be no way to stop the violence because no one's in charge of the military or National Guard. Without government coordination, coronavirus further explodes out of control and vaccine development stalls. If the presidential standoff continues beyond that, the consequences are horrifying. That really would be the end of democracy, even the start of a civil war. This is what Donald Trump is openly threatening to do, and we still consider voting for him, not because we like him, but because he supports the issues we care about. Democracy is more important than our partisan values, more important than abortion, because a stable, functioning democracy is what gives us a voice on abortion or any other issue we care about. Democracy comes first. We can't let Donald Trump divide us so badly that we become divided on protecting democracy. Vote him out of office so completely that no future candidate would dare threaten democracy again. And if he refuses to leave, ignore him, because he's just one man. We are democracy. Why would I make this video? I don't want to add to the division. I don't want to risk hurting feelings or making people mad. And honestly, does me pointing out the profound danger of Trump really make a difference? I made this because when we look back on the evil men of history, we assume that the people who supported them were also evil. Historians argue that it's simply not the case. People that supported evil men were people just like you and me. We have this fantasy that we would be the ones to fight those evil men of history, but we never consider that they might come from our own party, that voting those men out of power would also mean voting against our political values. We never consider that we might believe the excuses for ending democracy. I made this video to take a stand, that when history called, I did more than just vote and share some divisive memes. I called for unity, I pleaded for good people to reject division because we are stronger than this moment in history. And without Donald Trump, we can be united again. Thank you for watching this. Special thanks to all my conservative friends who were willing to share their viewpoints with me and help me step outside my echo chamber while making this. If you found this video helpful or informative, like and subscribe all you want. It's not gonna matter because the last thing I want to do is spend my life making difficult videos. Please don't make me make more of these. I love you all.